Today is my birthday, and while I wait for my fiance to get home from work so we can head out and carry out whatever plan she has in store for me, I thought I would spend my morning playing some good old-fashioned video games. I was gonna go play SIlksong first because I love SIlksong, it's one of my favorite games of all time, but unfortunately, there is nothing left for me to do in that game. If you've been following along my channel, you know that I was trying to get my final achievement for the game, which was the Steel Heart achievement. I recently lost my Steel Soul save file to Bell Eater, of all people, but over the last few nights I've spent grinding at the game again, and now I've actually gotten every single achievement and memento and collectible in SIlksong. So physically, there's nothing else for me to do in that game other than wait for Sea of Sorrow DLC, which, I mean, that's coming out tomorrow, right? So I figured, why not go back to the classics? Why not go back to Hollow Knight, as I still haven't done Pantheon 5, and I thought it would be a fun little thing to do because I haven't actually played Hollow Knight since SIlksong came out. And SIlksong being already half a year old, which is crazy by the way, wow, time is flying away, I thought now was a good time as any to try out some Hollow Knight again. So I boot up the game and holy shit, I realize how much I've been spoiled by Hollow Knight SIlksong. Now this video is not intended to shit on Hollow Knight or anything. I really love Hollow Knight, and I feel like in a lot of ways and in a lot of cases it excels SIlksong itself, but that's not what I want to talk about today. Maybe I'll make that video someday too, but today I want to talk about how playing Hollow Knight after SIlksong made me realize just how much better SIlksong is as a video game compared to Hollow Knight in so many ways. And I'll start with some small ones, but then make my way up to some bigger things that I've noticed. But oh my god, I did not realize how much I will miss sprinting in Hollow Knight. I just found myself instinctively holding on the dash button because that's what SIlksong has conditioned me to do, and not having a sprint sucks. It's such a simple concept, such a simple idea to implement a sprint, and I'm sure Team Cherry got inspired by watching playthroughs of Hollow Knight and realizing that people spam the dash button all the time because it's just much faster than walking, despite having some charms like Sprint Master which make you walk faster. There's just never any reason to walk in that game, so rather than having a weird dash spammy gameplay, they implemented sprint, and it is a godsend. Playing Hollow Knight after having spent hundreds of hours playing SIlksong can feel like you're walking through mud just trying to explore the land of Hallownest. It is so weird and bizarre how much positive impact just a simple sprint button has had. And not only the sprint button, the second thing I noticed, which I did while fighting some bosses in Pantheon 5, the lack of Drifter's Cloak was abysmal. And I don't mean the ability to soar up jet streams of wind to reach high ground. That's pretty cool mechanic and all, I really like that thing, but more so the ability to float down from a double jump. I missed that so much while fighting bosses. A lot of times bosses would attack and I'll double jump to get out of the way and just instinctively hold my jump button to dodge some projectiles because that just made sense to me. That's what SIlksong had conditioned me to do, and it would baffle me every time the knight just decided to plop on the ground instead of gently drifting down when I asked it to, because obviously that's not a thing in Hollow Knight. And holy fucking shit, such a simple change can make the gameplay so much better. I never realized that, which is kind of a theme with some abilities in SIlksong, like the Drifter's Cloak I mentioned and Clawline. Like, yes, the Drifter's Cloak can help you ride wind tunnels and reach high ground, and the Clawline can help you hook onto little levers and pull them down, but those are just locks and keys in a Metroidvania, that doesn't really add anything to the gameplay. It's the other aspects of those abilities, like I already said, gently floating down with Drifter's Cloak to avoid enemy projectiles, or clawlining to flying enemies. Oh my goodness, I cannot describe how much I missed Clawline in Hollow Knight. When I was fighting Soul Master, all I wanted to do was just Clawline to that asshole as he zipped around everywhere. Same with all the flying bosses and enemies like Primal Aspids, Vengefly Kings in the Pantheon, just anything that had flying AI, because flying AI is not the best in Hollow Knight. It just made me appreciate Clawline so much more. And when you combine all these factors together, the like sprint, floating down, zipping to enemies, and then Hollow Knight doesn't have that, you really feel it. Even though Hollow Knight was never designed with those abilities in mind, you still miss it. Because funny enough, those abilities would still work in a game like Hollow Knight. Albeit it would require some serious balancing of the game, obviously I know that, but you still miss those abilities after you've spent 6 months playing Silksong. But boy, I wish it ended there. It absolutely did not. Another instinctive thing I tried to do as soon as I got into Pantheon 5 was, oh, my soul meter is full. Oh, I'm missing 3 mask shards. Boom, let me just tap that heal button real quick while I dodge these fucking Vengefly Kings, right? Nope, can't do that. You just gotta stand in a corner and just, pray to the gods that nothing hits you while you spend 10 years in a fucking pooping animation healing. It's so obnoxious healing in Hollow Knight after you're used to Silksong heals. My words cannot describe the pain I felt every time I had to halt the entire gameplay and, just stand in a corner somewhere and try to heal 1 mask of damage. Oh my god. I thought, what, fuck it, I'm just gonna put on some quick focus and then it's gonna be good, It's not gonna be like instant, but it's gonna be better than this slodge. And then I go to my loadout and I realize, oh my goodness, quick focus is 3 charm notches. That does not fit in my build right now. The most charm notches I can free up are 2, so I'll have to change my whole build again. And again, that just made me appreciate so much more the entire build system in Silksong. It is amazing that they got rid of the notch system and instead they just give you like tool slots, colored tool slots. I feel like that allows for so much more build variety and it makes your builds so much more flexible. Especially I noticed that while doing Steel Soul and Silksong, how easy it was to just quickly swap out a tool for another to help you in that specific situation without having to redo your whole build. It's just incredible, that amount of flexibility. And when it comes to gameplay mechanics like tool layouts and as well as movement mechanics like sprint and claw line and stuff like that, I feel like flexibility is just the best word to describe Silksong and why it's just better than Hollow Knight in terms of gameplay for me. Hornet is so flexible, be it her movement or be it her loadout abilities. And I haven't even touched upon the beauty that is the crest system and how insane amount of build varieties that lets you do. Again, the reason I'm not talking about that is because that's something that sadly I did not miss, because unfortunately for me, I found out my main crest was the Wanderer crest, and then I'm a very rigid gamer who rarely tries out new things, so I just stuck with Wanderer Crest for most of my gameplay with Silksong, and Wanderer Crest gives you almost the same moveset as the Knight and Hollow Knight, right? So that's not something I necessarily missed while playing Hollow Knight, but I imagine that if you were maining something like the Witch Crest, or especially the Architect Crest or the likes, you will absolutely miss your moveset while playing Hollow Knight. And I'd like to remind you all, this is not to say that Hollow Knight is a bad game. Obviously, the Knight had to walk so the Hornet could run. I'm very well aware of that, but it's just a fun little thought experiment of how much I missed Silksong gameplay mechanics going back to Hollow Knight. I cannot seriously see myself playing Hollow Knight start to finish again. I'll think I'll lose my mind. And on a side note, can I just say, when I rebooted my Hollow Knight save file and I opened the map, I was so taken aback by how tiny the map looked compared to the absolute humongous map of Silksong. Like, Silksong's map dwarfs Hollow Knight. If you haven't played Hollow Knight since Silksong came out, I highly recommend you go into the game and actually just boot up the map. You will notice how small it is. You'll notice walking around Hallownest how crude and like dated the art style looks compared to Silksong. Honestly, you'll even notice it if you compare the Pantheons from Godmaster to just like base Hallownest, because Godmaster came out long into Hollow Knight's life cycle, right? So Ari Gibson's art style and Team Cherry's just ability to implement graphics in their game had already improved significantly. So you already see that difference. But oh my god, just exploring Hallownest versus exploring Farloom, the graphical fidelity, that is nuts how crazy different that is. Hollow Knight is one of the greatest games of all time, and obviously Team Cherry had to learn over the years and iterate upon the design philosophy of Hollow Knight to give us a banger like SIlksong. And in many ways, I still believe Hollow Knight is better than SIlksong. Maybe this is a controversial opinion, but nothing in SIlksong gave me the same feeling that City of Tears did, and Hollow Knight, not even the Citadel, I'm sorry. And maybe I should make a video talking about the little things I prefer in Hollow Knight over SIlksong, but when it comes to the pure gameplay experience, wow, SIlksong is much better than I originally realized it was. Let me know if you felt the same. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below what mechanic in SIlksong you miss the most when you go back and play Hollow Knight. Thank you for watching this weird video. I know this is very different from the videos I usually make, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out there. Thank you guys for watching and have a great rest of your day. Peace out.